In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course. We must increase productivity. That means making it possible for industry to modernize and make use of the technology which we ourselves invented. That means putting Americans back to work, and that means, above all, bringing government spending back within government revenues, which is the only way, together with increased productivity, that we can reduce and, yes, eliminate inflation.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
All right, hello, welcome back to Inform New Hampshire. Today is October 23rd, 2019. I'm your host, Rich Merritt. A couple things before we get started. First, I would like to ask you to check out the Boston Broadside newspaper. I happen to think that's a very good newspaper. Fledgling newspaper, but very good. They deserve a shot because they're being honest with the people they represent, all right, their clients. So give them a shot, the Boston Broadside. Check out the nationallibertyalliance.org. I've been with them for 6 years, and I happen to believe that they're on the right track. I've had people disagree with me, but it's one thing to disagree. It's another to put the work into it that National Liberty Alliance has. So check them out. Thirdly, I want to ask people if they would check out my book, Stand Your Ground. I wish a lot of people would stand their ground, because we wouldn't be in the predicament that we are, but we are in that predicament. So check out the book. I believe the link will be shown at the end of the show. Check it out if you would, and appreciate your support. Joining me today is Dan Rashad. I've spoke about Dan highly because I can't think of anything else to say about him other than he's a good guy, he's honest, and he's probably the most knowledgeable guy in the state constitution that I know. He is, not probably, I'm sorry, he is. With that, the show today is going to be premised on who makes the laws. And I hope, by the way, who makes the laws and which group is hiding that information from you and me. So hopefully we can prove that to you in the next 25 minutes. Dan, welcome.
Thank you, Richie. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. First thing we're going to do is Article 1, I guess. We're going to take this, well, we'll start off with Article 1, which is the equality of men.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go down that road, I'd like to address this real important issue, which is understanding that the way the founding fathers of New Hampshire wrote our state constitution, they wrote it in a manner that was the evolution of 700 years of the English common law system. And as it was adopted here in New Hampshire, and they made it be their own. And what's very important there is understanding under that system, how is law made? Is it made by representatives we sent to the legislature, or is it by the consent of the people? And so I want to begin with Article 1, which spells that out for us in great detail. Article 1, equality of men, origin and object of government. All men are born equally free and independent. Therefore, all government of right originates from the people, is founded in consent and instituted for the general good. The date of effect was June 2nd, 1784. And by the way, folks, I'd like to reinforce something. Don't take anything I say without fact-checking. I do the same. When I learn new information, as I study the state and federal constitutions and the laws written pursuant thereof, it's important to always have full context. And so basic contract law. Basic contract law says offer, acceptance, and consideration. Those are the three tenets of contract law. The state constitution is a protection contract. And this is spelled out in great specificity in the following article, Article 2, which states that all men have the right to life, liberty, to possession, protection of property. In other words, the pursuit of happiness. And the whole purpose of our state government was designed to fulfill that fundamental role. That fundamental role is completely engulfed in the 38 enumerated rights that are unalienable. And these are what we refer to as Part 1, the Bill of Rights. Part 2, form of government, was created specifically to protect Part 1. And it's the very existence of why the state government was established in the first place. Again, when you read the state constitution, you go through it and you have a good comprehension of it, this all becomes perfectly clear. And
Can I
go ahead.
back up for a minute?
Absolutely.
Because I want to touch base on Article 1. All government of right originates from the people. And I think it's important to note that the state constitution was ratified by the people, and this was given to the government. This is their marching orders, their operating guide, whatever you want to call it, mission statement, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So all government of right is contained in here. Anything that is not contained in here is, I guess you'd call it, government of wrong. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but government of right is what's authorized by the people to its government, its public servants, and is founded in consent. It's my contention, for example, that the gasoline tax, the liquor tax, the tobacco tax that the state has, I don't pay any of those. I don't consent to them, so I don't pay them. Am I a criminal? No, I choose not to pay them. Choose not to participate in that program. It doesn't make me a criminal. That's what founded in consent means. You know, it's my contention. You can follow up with your view on the subject, Dan.
Well,
I think it's important that we talk about that.
Right. You have the unlimited right to contract, and this includes which programs you choose to participate in, your right of elective franchise, those things you wish to be involved with and participate with. Let me jump to Article 12 of the State Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Part 1. And this is the summation of the protection contract. This is what anyone who agrees to be a citizen of this state is referring to. Article 12. The caption is Protection and Taxation Reciprocal. Every member of the community has the right to be protected by it, comma. Let me stop. Every member means exactly that. Men, women, residents, citizens, anyone who is within the land jurisdiction of the state is entitled to be protected by the rights and form of government established by this Constitution. Now, I should say resident doesn't apply, but they're still subject to our laws. In other words, the word resident only appears in our state constitution in one place. It does not confer the same constitutional protections as guaranteed to the citizens. But I digress. Back to Article 12. In the enjoyment of his life, liberty, and property, he's therefore bound to contribute his share in the expense of such protection, and to yield his personal service when necessary. And at the time, this meant the willingness to be part of the militia, regular or irregular militia, because at the time of the founding, the republic known as the United States of America had yet to be created. We don't send delegates to Philadelphia for another 5 years, till 1788. So, to digress back to this document, the important part here is that you are willing to contribute to said expense. In the original voting laws for many, many years, you could not exercise your right to vote if you were the beneficiary of city or state welfare. In other words, they treasured the ability to only pay by the act of consent and contribute to the expenses of the government. Not extra. It's not to say that that charity, charitable giving, and working within your community is bad. To the contrary, the point is that was left to the church, and the responsibility of the spreading the expense. Well, this is detailed in Article 28, and it gets into how the taxes are going to be applied in an equal manner for all the people who are qualified inhabitants. And again, now if they wish to not participate, if they have an aversion of carrying a firearm or because of any belief system, they did not have to pick up a musket, but they had to pay for the substitute. So that was their option, and those were the obligations. You consent to the expense of such protection and participate in said protection of the state and the people in it. The last part is profoundly important as to who makes the law and your obligations to it. Part 2 of this Article 12. But no part of a man's property shall be taken from him or applied to public uses without his own consent, or that of the representative body of the people. Nor are the inhabitants of this state controllable by any other laws than those which they or the representative body have given their consent. Now, there's a lot in there. Many interpret the first clause as what is referred to as eminent domain, but it's broader than just that, as well as breaking down who the representative body of the people are. And I'll read it again, or the representative body of the people. Well, the people has been interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court to reference, when you see that language, you're talking about the citizens of a state. And so the people of the state, the citizens of the state, are not controllable by any laws which they, the citizens, nor are the inhabitants of the state controlled by any other laws which they or their representative body. The representative body is you, the voter, with the ballot measure. The only way the state constitution, which is the law of the land, remember, this is established in Article 101, where it said this Constitution will be considered one of the laws of the land to be written on the parchment paper. And when you look at the previous article, Article 100, in Part 2, it tells you how said Constitution is to be amended. And that is through a 2/3 ballot measure proposed to the voters. The state constitution was drafted the same, was ratified the same way. Only after multiple attempts to ratify our state constitution did the voters, the people, the citizens of the state, consent to the form of government that they had all agreed would be the law of the land. So, Richie, jump in.
Well, I wanted to jump back, not into Article 12, because I think you covered it, but I wanted to talk about Article 7.
Mm-hmm.
The people, well, and I don't know the title of it because I'm not as good as you are with
State sovereignty.
State sovereignty. I think it's very important because it says, and I'm just trying to reaffirm that the people are the ones making the laws. The people of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves. And then you stop and you say, well, who does? The people. That's right, the people that ratified the law in the state of New Hampshire. People of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state. The state doesn't get their sovereignty from the legislature. They get it from the people. That's how it's given to them. That we authorized it, so we're giving them the sovereignty.
It's
to
delegated,
act as a government.
Richie,
Right.
it's delegated in the Constitution.
Exactly.
The people delegated those specific powers and that specific job to the government, and that's a delegation of power. And I'll go ahead and read that for you. This is Article 7, State Sovereignty. The people of this state have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as free, sovereign, and an independent state, and do and forever hereafter shall exercise and enjoy every power, jurisdiction, and right pertaining thereto, which is not or may not hereafter be by them expressly delegated to the United States of America and Congress assembled. So that's state sovereignty clause.
Yeah, and we will enjoy every power, jurisdiction, and right. And I'm not going to get into the jurisdiction, but our jurisdiction has been stolen from us by the same people who don't want you to know what your state constitution says. That's my contention. You can disagree with it all you want, and I'll say who it is at the end of the show. But
Well, let me prove your point. The very next article is Article 8, follows state sovereignty. Accountability, this is Article 8, accountability of magistrates and officers, and the public's right to know. All power, clearly, all
much?
power, all
okay.
power residing originally in and being derived from the people. All the magistrates and officers of government are their substitutes and agents, and at all times accountable to them. That's a joke.
Yeah, you think?
Well, that's what it says here, but
Yeah.
apparently...
That's just the law. Doesn't mean
Yeah, it's just the
anything.
law of the land. Apparently, most of these people have never read this document, so they wouldn't know.
Well, that's my whole point. The people don't read it, and our ignorance is going to take us down if we don't smarten up quickly.
Right. Government, therefore, should be open, accessible, accountable, and responsive. This is, by the way, this is the amendment for what we call the right to know law. That is a direct derivative of this Article 8. And why that's so important is that the delegated power in Article 5, Part 2, that we delegated to the legislature, grants them the capacity to make laws, rules, regulations, statutes, and so on and so forth. But it has a very important caveat that the legislature continues to ignore. Within the very same chapter of their delegated power is the caveat that is repeated twice. Shall not be repugnant or contrary to this Constitution. It couldn't be more clear. In other words, the legislature is only permitted to make laws, statutes, rules, and regulations that are written pursuant to their delegated power. If they wish to have more power and grow the size of government, it is within the purview of the amendment process for that to happen.
And that's also called government of right.
Exactly, you got it on the head, Richie.
Yeah.
And so this is a fundamental principle of self-government, and it is the means by which we only, back to Article 12, when it says, nor are the people controllable by any other laws which they, see, only they, the people, the inhabitants, the citizens of the state, can amend the state constitution. Now, the legislature can convene a convention. It can propose amendments in general session. No matter how they propose an amendment, the amendment process is very clear. You have to propose the changes that you're asking for more power, convince the people. But that's not what we have now. Now we have an out-of-control government. Our delegates, our judges, the lawyers, the politicians, all the people that ought know this instrument, the state constitution, don't read it, don't know what it says, and how can they effectuate every year, go into session and continue to make, see, they go there with the belief that they can do as they please. In other words, just because you voted for them, that they can affect a lobbyist agenda. A lobbyist can be members of their own community. It could be business interest. It could be corporate business interest. They go to the legislature unaware of the prohibition that they shall not violate the Constitution when they act in their legislative capacity, and they do it every day. And there's no one stopping them.
One thing I can add to that, Danny, the state constitution in 1784 was adopted or ratified by the people in 1783. It took effect in 84. That made this a common law document. And the thing about it is the people, we said to the King of England in 1775 or 6, all right, we don't need you anymore. Cleared our independence. We took the King of England and threw him out, and we substituted ourselves for the king. We're all kings in this country, jointly. I don't rule over anybody, neither does Dan, neither do you. But collectively, we do. I'm the king of my castle, you're the king of yours. As long as we don't interfere, we don't have a problem with the government. The government should not be bothering us whatsoever. If you didn't break the law, they have no issue with you.
Well, Richie.
But I wanted to say one more thing, Dan, on that. The people have to understand that you are the sovereign. You make the laws, not the legislature. And we're going to be talking about that in a second in Article 5, because I think it's important too. But I just wanted to bring that point up, Dan.
No, that's an excellent point, Richie, and I wanted to expound upon that. And that is the issue of sovereignty. Sovereignty belongs to the people collectively. Richie made a great point. When we got rid of the king, we, instead of having another individual sovereign, a king.
We inverted the pyramid.
We inverted the pyramid.
Yeah.
So now the people were sovereign collectively. So we're not advocating that individual sovereignty, as some people who have done bad things that call themselves sovereign citizens. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the people collectively through the amendment process, through circulating the proposed form of government. Remember, folks, the state constitution went back and forth 3 times. The first constitution of January 5th, 1776 was a temporary, and the first attempt to form ourselves into a state government was rejected because it didn't have a significant quality or even an expression of a Bill of Rights. So the people rejected that instrument. They went back, they drafted in convention and sent their delegates in convention, and then got the consent of the people, and they submitted one with a Bill of Rights. It was rejected. After rejecting that one, and the reason the second rejection happened was there was an insignificant executive. We were only getting, they wanted the title governor, which was what we had as an overlord representing the king. They wanted their own president. So this is the inverted paradigm here. So they went ahead and granted to themselves the capacity to govern themselves. And this is the means by which it's effectuated.
I wanted to also support something that we're trying to get across here, that, you know, common law is the land jurisdiction in this country, and the people are the sovereign class of people. Well, to support that, the ultimate authority in law is you. It's called the jury system. You have the power to nullify a law. Regardless, if you think it's unjust, I don't care what a judge tells you or a lawyer tells you, okay? You have the authority, the jury does, to say, oh, no, that law is, that's crazy. Like, I don't know, spitting on the sidewalk, these blue laws that they had from 100 years ago, jaywalking. And I'm not going to get into it. I know that those are ridiculous, but the point I'm trying to make is that you are the authority. But in this, check out the 7th Amendment of the United States Constitution. No fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court in the United States.
5th Amendment.
Is it?
Yes.
I do that a lot. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're running out of time. We're probably down to about 3 minutes. I just wanted to close out with what Richie just said about the grand jury system and the jury system. When you read the original statutes written immediately after 1784, when the state constitution goes into effect, you'll discover that the grand jury system was one of the first things utilized in the effect of establishing the English common law. And what I mean by that is that in order to charge anyone, you had to present it to a grand jury, which was not controlled by the Bar Association. It was controlled by the county. And the town clerk of every town would select, after being notified by the court that it would assemble an upcoming superior court or state supreme court, that they would go ahead and convene a grand jury, and the grand jury would decide whether such was even law. And it also had the capacity to investigate anything corrupt within the state, because it was convened by the county, not by the county prosecutor, used as an instrumentality of the judicial branch, which is what we have today. And I think we're about out of time.
Well, I just wanted to say something about the bar, because I want to be very specific about this. I'm alleging that the attorneys, because they're not bad people, most of them aren't bad people, it's good and bad and everything, but most of the attorneys, when they go to law school, they're not taught everything they should be taught. It's through omission. They don't want you to know the law. They want you to know statutes and codes and all the procedures and all this other stuff, but not the law, not common law, which is, it's pivotal. It's pivotal. It's what we were founded on.
Would you pass that to me, please?
Granted, it was stolen from us, and we were too ignorant to know the difference, but it's incumbent upon you now to know that the police are not being taught properly, and a guy will be out there writing citations for 30 years and go, this guy's crazy, he doesn't know. No, I'm not crazy. You have to read the law to understand that you're being used as a pawn, and this whole thing is a scam, it's a scheme, Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, whatever you want to call it, and it's being used to take this country down.
Richie, let me close out with this. Folks, this book right here, you'd be horrified to realize that everyone that needs to know what this is in this book doesn't know what's in this book, and that should scare the heck out of everyone. Think about this. This is the law of the land, the state constitution. Your judges don't know what's in here. Your lawyers don't know what's in here. Your public officials don't know what's in here. Those you elect to the legislature don't know what's in here. And worst of all, we as a society, as wonderful people in New Hampshire, don't know what's in here either. And that's what we're here to promote, knowledge and understanding. Please go to newhampshire.gov and open up the state constitution on their website. This is a printed version. The one that exists as of today is on their website.
Please subscribe to Inform New Hampshire on YouTube, like us on Facebook, check out our website, inform-america.org, and check out my book, Stand Your Ground. Please stand your ground, because if we stand our ground together, nothing can beat us. Thank you for watching, and please share this. Thank you, Dan.
Very good.